Married fam conversation for you. I think the gaming industry is pretty bad at the moment anyway, so maybe gaming just needs to go less corporate and the culture war could fade away. The culture war will stay, even if the corporate moves to the side. I think in the recent years it's been the rise of indie games. I always see that clip from that woman who says games always appeal to the male fantasy and people think it's cringe. I think the main criticism of woke 1.0 today is that it was just grandstanding and moralizing. Yeah, this makes sense. But to tie that back into Twitter, at feminist and turfs that Remy doesn't like, he probably just doesn't like preachy people who criticize without solutions. But you can find antagonistic people anywhere on the internet. Hate Twitter. I haven't watched any videos by Sarkisyan since the mid 2010s. How do I say it? Mr. American, can you help? I remember there were... What? Milk toast? Not really worth getting as upset over as people did. Yeah. I mean, they were mild. This is why I want to watch it with Rami, so he can understand, like, the things that made waves at the time. 2010s. I think you both are right about the moralizing part. About no solutions, I disagree. The solutions, different solutions are offered by the woke party, but people just think it's not that serious. Like when I was talking on Discord, on debate in self-subreddit with, with whom? What did I want to say? Right, with the guy who was talking about the race bill, I noticed that like he talks about how the leftists are, trying to fight the racism, but they don't offer immediate actionable solutions. The solutions are long term to, help in general, like representation. No matter how people are tired of hearing it, matters. Um, so, so what now? Yeah, so they think it's useless because they cannot, resolve the racism now. There are no cheat code to resolving racism. But there will never be. This doesn't mean we shouldn't try to make it better. I ate so many sweets today. I now feel sick. Okay. What shall we do? Remy, yes, we got him. Hi, I was waiting for you. We shall wait because I was waiting specifically for you for this topic because I want your reaction. By the way, is my sound okay? I remember that my phone being in the same space as my microphone was being, very terrible for the sound. I should mail something. We're gonna watch Anita, yeah. Please, we need you for this. There's no point in watching it if you're not there. You or at least Potato, but Potato doesn't come here really. So we need you. What the hell is French toast? Rami, tell me when you're ready. And say if you want to get on stage. Oh, what do we call it? We call it grenki. Oh, but no cinnamon. It's just eggs, milk, blended together, mixed together. Then you dip bread pieces, powdered sugar. Still not what we do. We may add sugar to it, or we may add cheese. Either or. Have you played Mass Effect? Did anyone play? Water. The first Mass Effect game is from 2009. Or, no, it's Dragon Age. 2009, and Mass Effect is, I think, 2007. Crazy wardrobe story. So, in school, the guy I was in love with was in love with my friend, and so me and that guy, we were both gamers, and we both played Mass Effect. And because he liked my friend, my best friend, I recommended she try playing the game too. We downloaded it on her computer. She never played it. So there's that. This is just a little piece. Oh, hey, milk machine. I remembered someone on Reddit writing. He left. We scared him. Writing about Camcato machine. Yeah. Thank God I bagged my way into my friend's library with his two friends, and his two additional accounts that he needs for God knows what reason. Anyway, let's get going. Tropes versus women. Feminist frequency, since I think Rami is all there with us. Sinister seductress. I assume no one recognizes the woman here. It is from, I think, the third Mass Effect, Samara, who is the daughter of one of the alien women. Me with my Steam library, about to get woke up in here. I started sharing my library with my niece. Yeah, good thing she can't see my edition of what? Amarillo butt slapper. Because I share library with my friend, there are so many hentai games in there. Sometimes I scroll through the library and I'm like, what do I want to play? What is this game? And I open and there are 3D women having sex. I'm like, okay, I am not going to speak on this topic with him. It's a game where you slap bunny girls and boys' butts. It's better in VR. I mean, fair. No notes. Let's get going.
Look into my eyes and tell me you want me. Tell me you'd kill for me. Anything I want.
id Software's 2004 game Doom 3 took the basic concept of their earlier Doom titles, a space marine single-handedly fighting his way through hordes of demonic abominations, but it used the vastly improved computer graphics of its time to create a moodier, scarier tone. Along with the reimagined environments, sharper textures, and more atmospheric lighting effects, the creative team also designed some unsettling new monsters for this latest confrontation with the forces of hell. One of those new monsters was the Vagary, a monstrosity with the upper half of a naked woman and the lower half of a giant spider, who also happens
It's
to be
given
pregnant with
2014.
a penis and an
I wonder why.
It's no mistake that the Vagary blends female sexuality and fertility with elements designed to be unsettling or horrifying. The book, The Making of Doom 3, reveals that the game's creative team summed up the driving concept for the Vagary with the equation sexy plus gross equals creepy. What the makers of Doom 3 may not have realized is that this equation was in no way new, original, or innovative. On the contrary, by singling out the Vagary, the only female enemy in the game, for her gender and using this to make her uniquely repulsive, the designers were participating in a very long tradition of creating female creatures who function to demonize femaleness itself. To understand how such characters function, we actually need to venture back a few millennia, to time when myth and folklore were part of how people interpreted and made sense of the world. Just as modern media both reflects and shapes our culture today, those ancient stories weren't simply meaningless entertainment in their own time. They reflected and reinforced cultural values. Sadly, misogyny has been part of cultures for the past few thousand years, and the myths and folktales of those cultures reflect that, with female creatures and monsters who represented beliefs that women are inherently deceptive, manipulative, or evil. In his book Misogyny, The World's Oldest Prejudice, Jack Holland explores this through the story of Pandora from Greek mythology. The first woman, Pandora, was created by Zeus specifically to punish humanity after Prometheus stole fire from the gods. She's given a sealed jar and told to never open it. But because Zeus designed her to be evil and lacking in morals or manners, of course she does open it. By doing so, she unleashes evil into the world, dooming humankind to labor, suffering, aging, illness, and death. Where else have I heard a story about the first woman doing something she's not supposed to do and being responsible for all the bad things in the world? Commenting on what the tale of Pandora and others like it actually tell us about ancient Greece, Holland writes, as well as burdening Pandora with responsibility for the moral lot of man, the Greeks created a vision of woman as the other, the antithesis to the male thesis, who needed boundaries to contain her. Any history of the attempt to dehumanize half of the human race is confronted by this paradox, that some of the values we cherish most were forged in a society that devalued, denigrated, and despised women. And in his book The Gender Knot, Alan G. Johnson discusses the relationship between mythology and misogyny, saying the cultural expression of misogyny, the hatred of femaleness, takes many forms. It's found in ancient and modern beliefs that women are inherently evil and a primary cause of human misery, products of what the Greek philosopher and mathematician Pythagoras called the evil principle which created chaos, darkness, and woman. So there's a little mathematical fun fact for you. The guy who came up with the theorem you learned in geometry class wasn't just a brilliant mathematician, he was also a total misogynist. The equation sexy plus gross equals creepy pertains not just to the Vagary, but to a whole category of characters I refer to as grotesquely female. These are characters who incorporate highly gendered or sexualized elements in ways that are specifically intended to be creepy or disgusting. Other examples of the grotesquely female include Diablo III Sedea, the Maiden of Lust who spouts dialogue in a sensual, seductive tone, while also taking the form of a giant spider woman.
I will take great pleasure in your suffering.
Clotho, the third sister of Fate in God of War II, has naked breasts all over her body in a way that's clearly meant to be repulsive, while in Dante's Inferno, Cleopatra's nipples release demon babies who attack the player. And, well, I don't think the footage of the boss Kaylee from Bloodforge needs any explanation. Now, of course, there's no shortage of male characters in games who are meant to elicit disgust, but the unsettling nature of those characters is not tied explicitly to their gender. They don't function to suggest that maleness itself is inherently disgusting or dangerous. With these female characters, on the other hand, their grotesque nature is inextricably tied to their gender. Elements that are often presented as titillating in other contexts are twisted and made repugnant, so that their femaleness itself is what serves to make them disgusting. Exploiting women's femaleness is not always done by presenting them as repulsive. With some, it's their attractiveness or seductiveness that makes them worthy of fear, scorn, and contempt. Among the most famous female mythological creatures are the sirens, whose voices were irresistibly alluring to men who sailed near their island and heard their songs. But the music of the sirens was as dangerous as it was captivating, and the sailors who were seduced by the sound soon found themselves shipwrecked and stranded. Some interpretations characterize the sirens as cannibals who murdered the shipwrecked men and feasted on their flesh. And there are endless other mythological creatures created explicitly to demonize women, such as the succubus, a female demon who sexually lures and seduces men, the harpy, a screeching bird creature with the face of a woman, and of course the classic witch, a dangerous myth that resulted in the deaths of tens of thousands of real women across Europe and the American colonies in the 16th and 17th centuries. These archaic villainizing notions about femaleness are anything but ancient history. Their contemporary counterparts still show up in many games today, communicating the same regressive ideas about women's sexuality. In the 2010 game Mass Effect 2, players can agree to help the Asari Justicar Samara capture her daughter Morinth, a fugitive who suffers from a genetic disorder that makes mating with her deadly. When Samara confronts Morinth, players have two options: to keep their word and help Samara, or to betray and kill Samara and add Morinth to their team in her place. If players side with Morinth, she later tries to seduce Shepard with talk of the incredible ecstasy they might experience with her.
You and I can share something so intense, so deep, it will change your life.
But if players are swayed by Morinth's promises and choose to be with her, Shepard dies, just like all of Morinth's other lovers. While grotesquely female characters are designed to make femaleness repugnant by blending sexuality and repulsiveness, temptresses like Morinth make femaleness threatening because of their sexuality and attractiveness. This tradition of sexualized evil women in the Temptress mold include characters ranging from the Dark Queen of the Battletoads games to Elizabeth from Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2. In Hitman Absolution, if players track the target Layla to a secret room in the penthouse, she strips her Agent 47 in an attempt to distract him before drawing a gun and trying to kill him. The problem with these representations is not that they depict female characters who are sexual, it's the way that sexuality is presented, as a threat or a weapon rather than as something to be enjoyed by these women and those they choose to consensually share it with. It's a false notion of female sexuality rooted in ancient misogynistic ideas about women as deceptive and evil. Games sometimes blend the two extremes of the temptress and the grotesquely female, presenting us with female characters who initially appear attractive and alluring, only to have their true form revealed as monstrous and threatening. The critically acclaimed 2013 game Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, tells the story of brothers on a quest to find a cure for their ailing father. At one point on their journey, they rescue a young woman who it appears is about to be sacrificed. The seemingly innocent young woman then travels with the brothers for a while, flirting with the older one and luring the two of them off course and into a shadowy cave. Here, her true nature and intentions are revealed when she transforms into a giant spider and tries to trap the protagonist in her web. The boys escape from her trap and fight back, ultimately killing her, but not before she gives the older brother a fatal wound. DMC features a scene in which Dante confronts Lilith, a character whose sexualization is intended to be unsettling rather than titillating, as if she thinks she's sexually appealing while the player is meant to find her unattractive. Lilith then undergoes a horrifying transformation as the demon spawn she's carrying inside of her emerges to fight Dante. In Missplosion Man, the final boss initially appears to be a cartoonishly sexy woman in a wedding dress. However, when she's defeated for the first time, she reveals her true form, a gigantic, grotesque female creature. While this is played for laughs, the core idea that female sexuality is inherently deceptive or threatening remains the same. With all of these character types, their femaleness or sexuality is an intrinsic part of what is intended to make them dangerous or repulsive. As a result, when male heroes defeat them, their victory is often explicitly gendered. emphasizing that the male protagonist has overcome the female threat and reinserted his dominance and control. This can be as simple as the use of gendered slurs, as in Gears of War 3 when Marcus Phoenix stabs and kills the Locust Queen.
Everyone else should kill you, bitch.
Or it can be graphically sexual, as in the killing of Cleopatra in Dante's Inferno. Or in this boss fight in Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2, which ends with the protagonist impaling the vampire through the mouth. Yeah. Of course, it's entirely possible to have female villains who don't reinforce the idea that female sexuality or femaleness itself is threatening or repulsive. In Knights of the Old Republic 2, Kreia is a richly developed and complex villain whose evil is not tied to her gender. In the Portal games, the malicious AI GLaDOS' obsession with taunting and killing the protagonist is presented in a smart, engaging way that doesn't reinforce misogynistic ideas about women as a whole.
The Enrichment Center once again reminds you that Android Hell is a real place where you will be sent at the first sign of defiance.
And no list of cool female villains from games is complete without the dashing criminal mastermind Carmen Sandiego. These representations are often defended because they're rooted in storytelling traditions that date back for thousands of years. But for as long as it has existed, misogyny has been reinforced by the stories that cultures have told themselves. Myths, legend, folktales, and religious teachings have been used as tools to contribute to the oppression of women for millennia. When games today uncritically employ such representations, they aren't tapping into some intrinsic truth of human existence. They're doing what stories involving such characters have always done, perpetuating false notions that women are inherently misleading and manipulative, and that female sexuality is something to be shamed, feared, and controlled. Those ideas were harmful 2,800 years ago, and they're still harmful today.
Okay. Thoughts? Let's read what Sammy says. I saw a short once about a female illusionist who has the school act where she instantly switches clothes on stage. Everyone in the comments were insisting that she would have been put to death for being a witch in 19th century. Same period, time period that Harry Houdini was performing, and when we already had cars, telephones, and electricity. Interesting that they chose this century. Okay, so what about this? And another question is, why do you think I chose this as the first one to watch? Why did I prioritize this? Your guesses in the comments. Oh.
Hello?
We hear you.
Okay. Well, what I personally see here is... Okay, if they are not new or they're not unique concepts about these female monsters games, you know, I mean, there might be cool designs and whatnot, but, you know, I really don't see what the harm in having, you know, these monsters, you know, in the game is, because when I look at them, I don't even see a human being. I see a monster. I see a boss that has to be fought and killed.
I think.
Right? You know, I'm not saying, you know, that this is like, I'm not seeing like women in general as human beings. I'm saying I'm seeing these parts, the video game monsters. You understand me?
Yes, I understand. So.
Okay.
By the way, I personally love like these designs, at least some of them, like the ones I sent you in the chat from Dragon Age. I love those too. They are disgusting, especially the first one. Wow, I was impressed. Anyway, so the point here is, and I think this is something a lot of people in tech spheres and STEM don't realize, is that whether you want it or not, you subconsciously consume messages delivered to you through science. So, as she pointed out, here the thing that gets turned into, monster, the part that becomes grotesque to create a monster, is what is associated with being a female or being a woman. And sexiness is a big part of it. The reason I decided to choose this one is, I think it wasn't as common back when these videos were released, because there was no OnlyFans back then. But now you will see men stating that women use their sexuality to victimize and manipulate men so much more often. When a woman is being sexy, even like if she just looks sexy and she's not being sexy intentionally, people turn it into, her promoting OnlyFans on social media. Like, a woman can post herself looking good, and people will ask, where's the OnlyFans link? So this is one connection we make. The next connection is that people say that women with OnlyFans accounts prey on men who are lonely. So them presenting their sexuality is evil and manipulative. When people say this, they do not think about men who are participating in these activities. They think of them as someone who is not in control of themselves, someone who is being manipulated. And with this together, any woman who is attractive and popular starts being seen as someone who uses their sexuality to manipulate people. Like, I remember vividly that comment that a guy left on debate incels, where he talked about how when he was in school, 3 guys beat him up, and he said that this is because of the girl who told him. And when I said these are 3 people, separate people, humans, who made the decision to beat you to a pulp. Every punch was a decision on their part. He said, you do not blame the bullets for shooting, you blame the one who holds the gun. The thing is that when people see men acting on their attraction, they are often seen as victims. on one hand, and on the other hand, women seen as people who can and will manipulate their men using their sexual appeal. This is very common. Like, let's return back to Black Pill. First of all, this loser Maxim guy who was talking about how all women are evil and they've never shown me kindness, or the guy who messaged me walls of texts about how all women are evil, vile, and manipulative, and all men want to do is fuck. So starting from this side to, the way when I was in high school, a guy from my friend group complained to me that as a woman I don't need to try, I can just sell my sexuality and be swell in life. Like get a millionaire. Sexuality does not work like this. It doesn't do these wonders. And most of the times women do not want to use their sexuality as a tool or as a weapon, because sexuality is a part of our personality, our identity, that is for us to enjoy. If you were a grown-up in the 90s, they would have told you to marry an American. What do you mean? I don't understand. Russian mail order brides. Right. Yeah. This is impossible for me. Like, if I tried to sell my sexuality, I just wouldn't be able to. I would just shoot myself. Do you want us to watch it right now? I actually also wanted to watch Women in a Freezer. Don't see it. Watch more, Anito. Let's watch your video first, and then we'll see.
In February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. Within days, not weeks, days, online searches combining the words Ukrainian and
It doesn't go into full mode.
porn increased by In February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. Within days, not weeks, days, online searches combining the words Ukrainian and porn increased by 600%. These were not searches about the war, they were not searches about how to help. They were men in multiple countries.
Why does it not? One last time.
In February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. Within days, not weeks.
Yay!
100%. These were not searches about the war, they were not searches about how to help. They were men in multiple countries, in multiple languages, treating a live military invasion like a browsing opportunity. The women generating those searches were in refugee processing centers. They were at the border crossings with children. They were asking for help. Doc Valiant Ricci, the OSCE Special Representative on Trafficking in Human Beings, presented this data at a human rights conference in Ireland. He described it as men seeking to, quoting directly, live out their war-inspired fantasies. I want you to hold this number for the rest of the video. 600%. Because everything I'm about to tell you exists in the same world as this number. So, I got a collaboration pitch. Not unusual. Usually it is a VPN service or a supplement that apparently can fix my whole personality, or an app that teaches you Spanish in 7 minutes a day. This was different. This was an app to find a Russian wife. They emailed me in Russian and English, they DM'd me on Instagram, they commented on my videos. It was a little overwhelming. They said my audience is widely foreign men, and also I connect with women like me. Women like me. They wanted me, a Russian woman, to advertise an app that catalogs Russian women for Western men to browse, like a menu, except the menu items have feelings and wrong passwords. I sent them my rates, as I usually do for every proposal. Most scammy businesses leave me alone after seeing the price tag, which I keep high to avoid the onslaught of scammy businesses. You know, precautions. I wanted to see what they wanted me to do. Maybe they would send me a brief. Maybe I would see what their selling points are. Maybe I could understand where they are coming from. They replied, apparently the price of my dignity was over their budget. But I started looking, and I found out that this company behind this app does not do just Russian wives. They have a separate app for Ukrainian women, separate app for Asian women, and another one, general app. They have 3 apps marketing what marketing calls traditional women from cultures that still value family. This is not a compliment, this is a sales pitch. And while I was looking, I knew that they messaged creators from the same niche, and some of those creators said yes. The 600% number is still there, isn't it? That's why I made this video. Today we're talking about how Eastern European women are portrayed in media, and why those portrayals are an industry and not just accidents. If you are not Eastern European, here is your pastor on what apparently you are supposed to be, according to media, television, films, advertisements, and certain app developers. Option 1. The mail order bride. Submissive, traditional, untouched by Western feminism. Will cook, will forgive your affairs, will not complain about your personality or lack thereof. Option 2. The mob wife. Loyal to a man who does crimes. Fashionable, complicit, somehow still sympathetic. Option 3. The trafficking victim. Eastern European Natasha, naive, beautiful, destroyed by circumstances. She represents tragedy that is very relevant to the plot. Option 4. The gold digger. She does not love you, she loves your passport. She is calculating, cold, and still very beautiful. Notice anything, every single one is defined by her relationship to men, suffering, or money. None of them is just a person. Italian TV once ran a panel where pundits listed the qualities that make Eastern European women the perfect wife. The list included: they forgive infidelity, they maintain their figure, they obey, they cook, and they prefer family over career. This was presented as a compliment. A Russian writer responded publicly, I am tired of the fetishizing of Eastern European girls. We are more than obedient wives who will let you cheat. She was called ungrateful. To understand how this became an industry, you have to understand the late Soviet times, in particular 1991. The Soviet Union collapsed, and not in a graceful way, in the way where the infrastructure millions of people organized their lives around, healthcare, housing, employment, childcare, vanished in a year. Mass unemployment, hyperinflation, poverty in Russia reached over 30% within 2 years after the collapse. For women specifically, it was a disaster, because in post-Soviet economy, women bore the consequences disproportionately. Childcare, elder care, domestic labor, all previously subsidized by state, was now just theirs, invisible, unpaid, expected. And into this vacuum came an idea: marry a Westerner, problem solved. Western men, according to the perception circulating at the time, including in Russian media, were sophisticated, sober, thoughtful, and faithful, not like local men. Local men were drunk and unemployed. Was this accurate? No. Was this a fantasy sold to people who were desperate? Yes, by the early 2000s, 92,000 Russian women and Ukrainian women were posting profiles on international dating websites every year. A US immigration study from 2001 found 62,605 Russian women had been recruited by American marriage brokers. By 2005, between 11 and 16,500 fiancé visas per year, up to a half of all of such visas issued, went to women who met their spouses through agencies. This is not a niche market, this is an industry. And like all industries, it needed a product. So it created one. The product was an image, an Eastern European woman, young, beautiful, traditional.
1 second, I just want to say that I was messaged on Reddit on this my extremely feminist political account by a guy from Spain, I think, who told me that I should just, marry a Westerner and to escape that, like, he I think could offer stuff like this. I don't remember how exactly he said it, but it was just, just marry a man and your problem is solved. Just find a man, just use a man for this. This is also in line with manipulated sexuality. Use your sexuality to get advantages. Oh, and by the way, in Russia, do you hear the sounds of music from outside? So in Russia, for a long time, to women, for I think a decade, women who had their own cars received one and the same statement, that they got it by doing blowjobs. This was every woman who had a car. Every single one. This is a culture that we all lived in. And we also had a notion, like when I was about 12 years old, there was this particular stereotype of a woman that was called dumb cunt. She would be, a blonde, taking photos with dark lips, and she would be good looking, of course, and dumb, because of course she has to be dumb. Anyway.
Great.
And like it was so widespread. I, as a 12 years old girl on the internet, also like was participating in this mockery of women, because this was the norm. he's going to say. I mean, while he's typing, I also got fetishized for being Russian. Like, if you hear that someone says, I love Russian women, you know they are going to see you as a fetish. You are not a person to them. Don't worry, you can marry me for a visa and you can sleep in the big bed. What if I want to sleep under the bed? I have experience being a sleep paralysis demon. I mean, I wouldn't want an American visa anyway. I need health care. Yeah, I love X type of women, etc. A lot of red flags, that's true. It's cool too, but you will hit your head. I mean, I often say I need to get lobotomy. So it's not like it's that bad. It's just a long-term lobotomy, a slow process. Anyway, let's keep watching.
Not a person, an image. And once you have an image, you can sell it. Let me show you how this image was built. Soviet Union, 1 year before the collapse. A film called Intergirl is released. It becomes one of the most watched Soviet films of its era. The story is about Tanya, nurse by day, prostitute by night, specifically for Western flight.
I'm sorry, I also remembered how I was arguing with a woman on Instagram online, and she said something dumb, and she was from Canada, so I said the infamous NA, North American education, and she said something like, your kind comes here to work as prostitutes. I was really shocked because I'm pity. I tried to find her workplace. I did a lot of digging. It seems she hasn't been working since like 2016, when she worked in some charity organization that died out, it seems. So I'd have assumed she would work in HR. Okay.
Paying in foreign currency. She marries one, moves to Sweden, has big apartment, nice clothes, and a Mercedes. She dies in a car crash. This film was meant to be a warning. Prostitution will destroy you. The West will not save you. You will always want to come home. Home is better. What audiences heard was different. They heard, if you do this, you can have a big apartment and a Mercedes. And honestly, the ending was very cinematic. The bad outcome still came with the Western lifestyle and several years of luxury before the crash. For someone in the 1989 Soviet Russia, the calculus looked different than the filmmakers intended. 2 years later, 1991, a Soviet pop duo called Kombinatsiya releases a song called American Boy. The lyrics, translated because I'm providing a service today, go. I am just a simple Russian girl. I have never been abroad. You are an American boy. Take me away. She wants to bathe in luxury in his Mercedes. She wants his country. She is, and I want to be precise here, described as simple. The song was catchy. It genuinely still is very catchy. I am actively fighting the instinct to sing it right now. But what the song...
American boy, уеду с тобой, Москва, прощай. It's fun song.
We did at the exact moment as Soviet Union collapsed and real women were looking for real options was make the fantasy feel like the pop song. Normal, fun, just something you sing along to. Media does this. It takes a structural economic crisis and turns it into a vibe. Like Swedish film Lilja Forever. A teenage girl from post-Soviet country is abandoned by her mother, tricked by a man, trafficked to Sweden, exploited. It ends very badly. The film Eastern Promises. Russian mafia in London. Women trafficked. Brutal scenes. These films wanted to expose trafficking, and partially they do, but also they do something else. They cement the image. Eastern European girl equals vulnerable. Eastern European girl equals available for destruction. When you see enough of these, the image calcifies, not as protest or an outrage, but as an expectation. And the apps I mentioned, they are selling the same image as a product. Let me give you numbers, because numbers are inconvenient and therefore important. According to the UN Office of Drugs and Crime, 79% of detected trafficking victims worldwide are trafficked for sexual exploitation, overwhelmingly women and girls. Less than 1% of trafficking victims are officially identified. In 40% of countries, the recorded number of trafficking convictions in any given year is zero. This isn't bad luck, this is infrastructure. Trafficking happens because there is demand, and demand is shaped by the image and by marketing. When you tell men through films, through apps, through pop songs, that Eastern European women are available, traditional, submissive, and eager for rescue, you are not just creating a stereotype. You are creating a customer. Sonia Osorio of the National Organization for Women described the mail order bride industry as a softer version of human trafficking. The softness is in the marketing, not in the outcome for many of the women. So let's go back to the app. I want to be precise about what the product is. It's not a dating app, because dating apps work on the premise of mutual choice. You swipe, they swipe, neither of you is obligated. This is a catalog, listed by country, filtered by age, browsable by men who paid for access. Women pay nothing, because they are not the customer, they are the product. 3 separate apps: Russian women, Ukrainian women, Asian women, all for one thing. A Western man wants a specific type of woman from a specific region associated with specific qualities: submissive, traditional, great. And this app will provide her. They approach me because I am Russian and I have a platform. My audience includes Eastern European women and women who relate to Eastern European culture. Advertising this app to my audience was supposed to be useful. It would also have been me, a Slavic woman, standing in front of Slavic women and saying, here is a service that turns you into a catalog, endorsed by me. Enjoy. What bothers me more than the ask is that somebody says yes. Some creators in this niche who also create Eastern European content, who also have Eastern European women in their audience, accepted the integration. I understand why. Money is real. Sponsorships are income. I'm not judging anybody's financial situation. But I want to be clear about the effect. When Eastern European creators advertise apps like that, we validate the premise. We become part of the catalog. We become the evidence that Eastern European women are comfortable with this, that this is normal, that this is fine. We are used to sell the image that is used to sell the women. This is what making us into commodities looks like in 2026. I know what some of you might be thinking. Anya, some women genuinely use these services and find good relationships. Yes, this is true. Some women may find love on those platforms. Some marriages that start this way are very real, respectful, and lasting. And I'm not arguing that every man on this app is a predator. And I'm not arguing that every woman on this app is a victim. I'm arguing about what the structure creates, the image it constructs, the demand it normalizes, and the harm that falls on the many when the industry is built around exploiting the vulnerable.
Note that criticizing the system does not mean criticizing every single individual that participates in the system.
You can build the road, and most people will use it to get to work. And some people will use it to run someone over. It is still a road. And I'm also not saying that Eastern European women need to be saved. This is another stereotype. The helpless Natasha who needs a Western hero. I find it just as irritating as the mail order bride one. We do not to be rescued. We need to not be marketed. Difference. Let me tell you what the stereotype actually costs. It costs credibility. When you are Eastern European and you date a Westerner, someone will assume you're married for a passport. Even if you have your own money, even if you have your own life. The image precedes you. It costs safety. When men have been sold the idea that Eastern European women are available for purchase, some behave accordingly. It's in the data. It costs policy. When trafficking victims are expected to fit the Natasha image, young, naive, passportless, the woman who does not fit the profile is not identified as a victim. Under 1% of trafficking victims are ever identified, in part because the profile is so narrow that real victims fall outside it. It costs visibility. Every time a story about an Eastern European woman centers on her availability or victimhood, it erases the stories that do not fit. The ones who are doctors, engineers, artists, politicians, or comedians on the internet who do the cat reviews. When you reduce a group of people to a set of useful fictions, you make them easier to exploit and harder to see. So what do we do? 1. Stop clicking. If you see an ad of an app for Russian wife, any of them, do not engage. Don't even stop to laugh at it. Engagement is revenue. Revenue is survival for those platforms. 2. Notice when the media does this. The next time you watch a film with an Eastern European woman character, ask yourself which trope is she feeling. Not to cancel the film, just to see it. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. 3. Support creators who push against it. Not just Eastern European creators, anybody who refuses to participate in the catalog. 4. If you are a man who uses these services, I'm not calling you a monster. I'm asking you to consider the industry it is built on, and whether your participation in it looks to you the same now that you have the full picture from me. And if you are an app developer who approaches Eastern European creators to advertise your catalog of Eastern European women, my rates are not going down and neither are my principles. I packed my life in 2 suitcases, not as a metaphor, 2 actual suitcases. That's all I had. Everything else I left behind, gave away, or decided it didn't matter enough to carry it with me. When you do that, when you reduce your livelihood, your entire existence, to whatever fits in 2 bags, you learn very quickly what is actually yours, what is you and what is just furniture. I came here as a person, with opinions, with specific sense of humor, with strong opinions about soup, and of course winter footwear, not as a product, not as a category, not as an image somebody else finds useful. This app that pitched me does not know what was in my suitcases, does not know what I left behind, does not know what it cost me to leave. They just know what I look like from outside, and they decided it was enough to sell. I made this video because the company thought I was available, because some of my colleagues decided they were, because when you have been reduced to useful fiction, it follows you, across borders, into refugee centers, into collaboration pitches in your inbox. The stereotype did not start with the app, and it will outlast it, unless enough people decide it should not. If you found this video interesting, useful, infuriating, or anything at all, you don't even have to press the like button. Instead, go donate to a fund that will help refugees, that will help women, that will help trafficking victims, do something that matters.
Thoughts? Oh, valid. I agree with the reader. Yeah. So she didn't mention this, but people. One of the problems with Ukrainian refugees that are women who were looking, for people to help is that some people would offer, usually men would offer, their places to live in to abuse women. So besides, running away from war, they would also need to be careful about not becoming a rape slave, a terrible situation. You think you would be safe when you successfully run away from war, and you are not. It's terrible. I thought about geomancy and fantasize about it, but in my case I fantasize about moving to what is L area so I can knit for a few more years. Low cost of living. Yeah, I understand. That'd be nice. I genuinely think, though, that people cannot live without doing something productive, at least somehow. I think this is very difficult for a person. That's why I don't think that, supporting people who are unemployed will leave to people just living off unemployment benefits. Being in need was late in 2016, but sucks in 2026. Not even any good MMOs to waste your life on. Yeah, so this just sucks. I rarely meet fetishization of Slavic women, and I think a big part of it is that I am hard to fetishize because I am, outspoken. One second. Okay, thanks for saying that. I just wanna knit and play video games from a luxury apartment near a beach. I want to lay on a beach and listen to waves come and go. Hang out with the Russians in Thailand. Have you seen the video of a drunk, supposedly Russian woman who was trying to attack a ladyboy? And this ladyboy gave her so many chances to leave her alone. But she didn't back off. So she got fucking air kicked by this ladyboy and by some other people, and deserved. You do not behave like this with people. I don't think I could do CA. Humidity kills me and I don't like it either. Yeah. How about lingerie is not armor? It's totally... They serve Russian dishes in fucking street stalls? Huh? Borscht with pie Thai. Interesting. I think I found the one I needed. refrigerator, not freezer. Okay, let's go.
Welcome to the second episode in our multi-part series exploring the roles and representations of women in video games. This project examines the tropes, plot devices, and patterns most commonly associated with women in gaming from a systemic, big-picture perspective. Over the course of this series, I will be offering critical analysis of many popular games and characters, but please keep in mind that it's both possible and even necessary to simultaneously enjoy a piece of media while also being critical of its more problematic or pernicious aspects.
Did you hear it? Did you remember it? Please keep in mind that she said it is necessary to enjoy media while being critical about it. This is the kind of videos that got people up in the arms, sending death threats, rape threats, doxing. The shit was bad. Everything is sexist, everything is racist. Well, I mean, when you are raised in the system where sexism is the norm and racism is the norm, this is kind of truth. Now I can only enjoy something 100% or I absolutely despise it. Yeah, normal Twitter comment. Someone said, must everything moral harbor a moral failure? Anyway, the thing is, if your house has mold, you keep living in your house. You just try to get rid of the mold. You know, you gotta work on that.
I just want to caution viewers that as we delve into more modern games, we will be discussing examples that employ some particularly gruesome and graphic depictions of violence against women. I'll do my best to only show what is necessary, but this episode does come with a trigger warning. It's also recommended that parents preview the video first before sharing with younger children. In our previous episode, we explored the history of the damsel in distress and how the trope became so pervasive in classic era games from the 80s and early 90s. We also
Pause. I have been for the past 2 weeks playing a puzzle game called IQ Dungeon. And you know, it is a great puzzle game. It's good at storytelling, nice character designs, especially in the first one. Unfortunately, this is very noticeable how often it is that a woman ends up being the damsel in distress. In the first game, it is, you know, the princess. You kind of expect it. Classic. Why would they deviate from the norm? In the second one, however, there is a party of the main character, the knight, the dagger thrower called Crow, and then, sorry, I forgot the name, the wizard girl, the student of the greatest wizard. And whenever someone needs saving from the trouble, whenever someone is, locked in a bubble, sleeping, it is the female character. And it doesn't just happen once, but just like for half of the chapter, this character is not present because male characters are saving, and it's never a male character who needs saving. Like, if it wasn't so prevalent, it would be okay, but it's just very noticeable. But I did enjoy the games.
Or some of the core reasons why damsel characters are so problematic as representations of women. So if you haven't seen it yet, please check that one out before continuing to watch this one. As a trope, the damsel in distress is a plot device in which a female character is placed in a perilous situation from which she cannot escape on her own and then must be rescued by a male character, usually providing an incentive or motivation for the protagonist's quest. Now, it might be tempting to think that the damsel in distress was just a product of its time, and that by now surely the trope must be a thing of the past. Well, while we have seen a moderate increase in the number of playable female characters, the plot device hasn't gone away. In fact, the damsel in distress has seen a bit of a resurgence in recent years.
Get me out of here.
He's hurting me.
Alice? Bullet in her head.
What a dear little bird you are.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Suffice it to say, the trope is alive and well even today. And since the majority of these titles still focus on delivering crude, unsophisticated male power fantasies, developers are largely unwilling to give up the damsel in distress as an easy default motivation for their brooding male heroes or anti-heroes. Remember that as a trope, the damsel in distress is a plot device used by writers, and not necessarily always just a one-dimensional character type entirely defined by victimhood. Now and then, damsel characters may be well-written, funny, dynamic, or likable.
I'm just trying to set you on fire through this stupid hat!
What a delightfully mean little brain you have.
However, this extra character development tends to make their eventual disempowerment all the more frustrating. Damsels on the more sassy end of the spectrum may struggle with their captors, or even attempt an escape on their own, but inevitably their efforts always prove futile. Occasionally they may be allowed to offer the hero a last-minute helping hand, or to kick the bad guy while he's down, but these moments are largely symbolic and typically only happen after the core adventure is over or the danger has passed. These token gestures of pseudo-empowerment don't really offer any meaningful change to the core of the trope, and it feels like developers just throw these moments in the last minute to try and excuse their continued reliance on the damsel in distress. Periodically, game developers may attempt to build a more flexible
Because men want and need a purpose. Even if it's a game, men want to be the ones who defy all odds and save the girl. What about women? Do we not need to defy all odds and save a girl, a guy? Or say, if it's a woman saving a man, will you not be able to relate to a woman doing it? Or what if the character is gay and he's saving a man? Or if it's a lesbian saving her partner? But the thing is that it's just lazy. You need to give a motivation, so you create a female character as this motivator because it's easy. It's kind of anti-creativity. I'm not against that. I'm just saying that these types of games will help feel a lack of purpose in man's life. I do not agree. I mean, what you unintentionally saying is that video games are made for men, exclusively for heterosexual men, and anyone who else is trying to enjoy games is just an afterthought and honestly just not considered. I remember, have you guys, I didn't mean that either, but okay, let's disagree. This is what happens. You are talking about an extremely prevalent trope that's like in every other video game. And you are talking about how it is for men. So every other video game that has a trope that is specifically for men, straight men, this probably means that every other game caters to men specifically. At least every other game. And again, like, it is, the difference is the prevalence of the same dynamic. If it wasn't always one gender being in distress and the other being the savior, it wouldn't matter really at all. But when it's something you learn, I do think it's lazy trouble. I understand that lonely men loving, wanting to vicariously live through the character. Okay, whether it's an unhealthy way to live out a fantasy, technically honorable albeit stereotyped, depends on how you believe lonely men should be able to fantasize. I guess a feminist could say, I understand that this man is lonely, but when he performs this trope in the game, he can become even further alienated from what he may truly desire, being approved as by a genuine femininity, not a stereotypical one. You do not understand the lens we're looking at it through, and I think we should. You look at it through a lens that is exclusively about men. What men do, how they are seen, what they like. Do you not notice? What you're talking about is how games should be should interact with, should be targeting men, but you don't consider whether the games should even target straight men primarily and almost exclusively in the first place. You don't consider that women or queer people may also want to live vicariously through the character. Like, every single character in Mass Effect or, well, every single character customizable one that I created as the main one had a bob, because I just love wearing a bob. And for a long time I was creating characters with red hair because I had red hair. I mean, this is also not about living out the fantasy. Mass Effect was a game that did this well precisely because of the did this well because of customization and life choices. Yeah, I'm talking about, as I said, Mass Effect, yeah. I played Dragon Age first. I was so upset to find out that in Mass Effect you can only be a human. Really, that sucked. Also, what we need to understand is that we, as we live on, we keep processing the information around us to understand what is the norm. If we see something very frequently, we start seeing it as the norm. We stop questioning it. If something different happens, it is weird and unusual. So when there is consistency in presenting women as helpless, we get the people viewing women as helpless. I know people are often tempted to say that, well, you need to separate fantasy and reality, but human mind does not separate it that well. The very core of art, living through art, is that you need to perceive it as reality. You need to play the game, you need to be in it. So you are learning the stereotypes that you see. Yes, I understand that desire is being constructed and socialized for the man, and the demographics for gaming may be too lopsided due to the patriarchal corporations. The demographics are not lopsided, not really. The target audience is. I think the gaming industry has historically been male, and that could be a reason for why it gravitates towards to these masculine tropes. But I would hope that as more women games, there could be better games probably that cater to their means of self-actualization. Do you know the Far Cry series? There are many women who participate in creation of video games. It has been a lot of women for a long time, and game studies, there are also many women studying games. Do you know if contemporary literature has been more catering to women ideas of self-actualization, since females gravitate to that more for entertainment to literature? Maybe that's why a lot of women like a man who reads, because they may be more exposed to that side. I'm not sure if there are tropes in female demographic literature that men could also criticize. as women are doing to masculine video games. I think that about 1 second. Okay. Tropes criticized, but tropes for women will also be criticized by women. It is very unlikely for a man to go and say, hey, seeing men as whatever you want to see them as is a little bit, not great. This doesn't really happen, I think. Men usually don't go and say, hey, your man is too manly to, portray. So contemporary literature, I think it's like, you might be talking about, smart, sexy, steamy romance. I do not know about that. I mean, a long time ago, I've read 2 fantasy novels about, romance that would not be highbrow. And in one, it was like enemies to lovers. The main character and the love interest were bickering a lot, and there was, a process of establishing connection, and there was, intimacy, not physical, but the kind of being forced to, go on adventure together. And the other, I don't even remember what was there. The usual fantasy, I think, is the brooding hero who would be the defender, and also you could fix him. But I do not think you are correct. Maybe a lazy trope could be a lady taming the beast, or I'm sure you are referencing this without maybe intending. This romance that a lot of incel spaces talked about with a beast. Oh, 1 second. Maybe a lazy trope could be a lady taming the beast, or trying to become too appealing to masculine norms to take control of her life. Yeah, instead of discovering a more personalized femininity. What is femininity? What exactly you mean? If I'm being honest, I'm not a fan of how you talk about men and their self-actualization through masculinity, and the same with women and femininity. It doesn't have to be this dichotomy. Yeah, I understand how dichotomy in itself can be prejudiced. Yeah. Maybe these aren't as toxic as the damsel in distress, but I can still understand how they may be potentially problematic. Yeah. I don't think an argument can be made that, cheap literature, pulp fiction for women, smart romances book talk are, great literature that does well representing male and female characters and complicated interpersonal relationships. I don't intend to make assumption for what either side has to mean. I don't think I understand your sentence. Sorry. Shall we continue? So, just to put the nail in it. The problem is that people passively consuming the same trope over and over again learn to internalize it and think that is the norm, that women are in need of protection and, having doors open to them, to use hyperbole. And the other is that it caters to men specifically.
Fleshed out relationship or emotional bond between the damsel character and the male protagonist. In the most decidedly patronizing examples, depictions of female vulnerability are used as an easy way for writers to trigger an emotional reaction in male players. As we discussed in our first episode, when female characters are damseled, their ostensible agency is removed and they're reduced to a state of victimhood. So narratives that frame intimacy, love, or romance as something that blossoms from or hinges upon the disempowerment and victimization of women are extremely troubling because they tend to reinforce the widespread regressive notion that women in vulnerable, passive, or subordinate positions are somehow desirable because of their powerlessness. Unfortunately, these types of stories also help to perpetuate the paternalistic belief that power imbalances within romantic relationships are appealing, expected, or normal. Okay, so we know that the damsel in distress is alive and well in gaming, but that's not the full picture. There's an even more insidious side to the story. Over the past decade, game companies have been desperately searching for ways to stand out in a market increasingly oversaturated with very similar products. As a consequence, we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of games attempting to cut through the clutter by being as dark and edgy as possible. So we've seen developers try to spice up the damsel in distress cliché by combining it with other tropes that involve victimized women. I've identified a few of the most common of these tropes.
I have to say, I'm not a big fan of, God, I forgot her name being there. Though, she is a woman in the refrigerator. Yeah, I just love Dishonored series. Well, I only played the first game. I need to play the second.
Which join together multiple regressive or negative representations of women, including the disposable woman, the mercy killing, and the woman in the refrigerator. The term women in refrigerators was coined in the late 1990s by comic book writer Gail Simone to describe the trend of female comic book characters who are routinely brutalized or killed off as a plot device designed to move the male character's story arc forward. The trope name comes from Green Lantern issue number 54, in which the superhero returns home to find his girlfriend murdered and stuffed inside his refrigerator. This trading of female characters' lives for something meant to resemble male character development is of course part of a long media tradition, but the gruesome death of women for shock value is especially prevalent in modern gaming. The women in refrigerator trope is used as the cornerstone of some of the most famous contemporary video games. It provides the core motivational hook behind both the Max Payne and the God of War series, for example.
My wife, my child.
In each case, the protagonist's wife and daughter are brutally murdered, and their deaths are then used by the developers as a pretext for their inevitable bloody revenge quest. It's interesting to note that the reverse scenario, games hinging on a woman vowing revenge for her murdered boyfriend or husband, are practically non-existent. The gender role reversal is so unusual that it borders on the absurd. Which is one of the reasons why the scene from Disney's Wreck-It Ralph is so humorous. I could do a very long video just exploring this one trope in gaming, but today I want to look at how the woman in refrigerator is connected to the damsel in distress, and specifically the ways game developers have found to combine these two plot devices. One popular variation is to simply use both tropes in the same plotline, so as to have the male protagonist's wife stuffed in the fridge while his daughter is damseled. In Outlaws, your wife is brutally murdered and you then have to rescue your daughter.
Who did this?
They've taken Sarah.
In Kane and Lynch, your wife is brutally murdered and you then have to rescue your daughter.
I'll find them all before they find Jenny.
In Prototype 2, your wife is brutally murdered and you then have to rescue your daughter. In Inversion, your wife is brutally murdered and you then have to rescue your daughter.
Layla, where is she?
In Asura's Wrath, your wife is brutally murdered and you then have to rescue your daughter.
Save her.
In Dishonored, the Empress is brutally murdered and you then have to rescue her daughter, though it's heavily implied that she's your daughter too.
Find Emily. Protect her.
It's no coincidence that the fridge plot device and the damsel plot device work in much the same way. Both involve female characters who have been reduced to complete states of powerlessness by the narrative, one via kidnapping, the other via murder. The two plot devices used together then allow developers to exploit both the revenge motivation and the good old-fashioned save-the-girl motivation. Believe it or not, there is another more insidious version of this particular trope hybrid, which I call the damsel in the refrigerator. Now, you may be asking yourself, how can a fridged woman still be in distress? Since by definition, being fridged usually sort of requires being dead. Well, here's how it works. The damsel in the refrigerator occurs when the hero's sweetheart is brutally murdered, and her soul is then trapped or abducted by the villain. This oh-so-dark and edgy twist provides players with a double dose of female disempowerment, and allows developers to again exploit both the revenge motivation and the saving the damsel motivation, but this time with the same woman at the same time. This trope combination can be traced back to old-school side-scrollers like Splatterhouse 2 and Ghouls and Ghosts, but the damsel in the refrigerator has definitely become a more popular trend in recent years. In Medieval 2, your murdered girlfriend's soul is stolen and you must fight to save her. In The Darkness 2, your murdered girlfriend's soul is trapped in hell and you must fight to free her.
My soul is mine.
In Shadows of the Damned, your murdered girlfriend's soul is trapped in hell and you must fight to free her. In Dante's Inferno, your murdered wife's soul is trapped in hell and you must fight to free her. In Castlevania Lords of Shadow, your wife's soul is trapped on Earth and you must fight to free her. The damsel in the refrigerator is part of a larger trend of throwing women under the bus in increasingly gruesome ways, in an apparent attempt to interject what I'll loosely refer to as her themes. Developers must be hoping that by exploiting sensationalized images of brutalized women, it'll be enough to fool gamers into thinking that their games are becoming more emotionally sophisticated. But the truth is, there's nothing mature about most of these stories, and many of them cross the line into blatant misogyny. Since what we're really talking about here are depictions of violence against women, it might be useful to quickly define what I mean by that term. When I say violence against women, I'm primarily referring to images of women being victimized, or when violence is linked specifically to a character's gender or sexuality. Female characters who happen to be involved in violent or combat situations on relatively equal footing with their opponents are typically exempt from this category because they're not usually framed as victims. As I mentioned in our last video, the damsel in distress doesn't always have to be accompanied by a heroic rescue.
Here I was again, with all hell breaking loose around me, standing over another dead girl I had been trying to protect.
Sometimes the hero fails to save the woman in question, either because he arrives too late, or because, surprise twist, she's been dead the whole time.
Nicole has been dead this whole time.
No! All my powers, and I couldn't do a thing.
Kill me!
Or in the case of the 2009 version of Bionic Commando, not only has your wife been dead the whole time, but turns out she's actually a part of your bionic arm.
I never wanted you to be involved in this.
It's okay. I'll always be by your side.
Yes, you heard that correctly. His wife is his arm. But the most extreme and gruesome variant of this trend is when developers combine the damsel in distress with the mercy killing. This usually happens when the player character must murder the woman in peril for her own good. I like to call this happy little gem the euthanized damsel. Typically, the damsel has been mutilated or deformed in some way by the villain, and the only option left of the hero is to put her out of her misery himself.
What part of her is in the arm? I mean, I don't know, but it seems like, I assume, either it's not stated or like all of her, most of her. Your wife, as your arm is definitely something. I want to, by the way, state that the mercy killing stuff after mutilation and things like that, I like this kind of tropes. Hopefully he's left-handed. As long as you relearn to stroke yourself. I mean, God, I won't tell you what is it, but one of the moments from reading a manga that I just loved because of, you know, this mercy killing stuff. So the character lost his best friend long time ago. This best friend got revived, and they like have to fight each other because now this character was on the side of the bad guys, brainwashed or something. So he kills him. The same fight, but just some chapters later, this character is raised from the dead. So the first time, obviously, it was very, very difficult to kill your friend, but you have to kill him because he's not himself anymore. And now he's being basically puppeted while he's still himself. So the main character is he is crying and he's like, no, I don't want to do this anymore, please make it stop. I just loved it so much. It was so intense. Yeah, the manga wasn't great, but I love this moment. What is it called? 7 Deadly Sins. By the way, talking about damsel in distress, I've read way too many sword art online novels, I think 2 or 3. How did I manage to go through it? It was before the anime was out. I had pictures saved on my laptop, and I even found this, I think, 16.5 chapter in the first novel where Asuna and Kirito are having sex. The sex scene is described. Okay, let's keep going.
We can trace this one back to the original 1980s arcade game Splatterhouse, in which your kidnapped girlfriend is possessed and the player is forced to fight and kill her. After saving his bitten beloved in Castlevania Lament of Innocence, the hero must then kill her to gain the power to defeat the Vampire Lord. In Breath of Fire 4, Alina has been turned into a hideous monster and then begs you to kill her. In Gears of War 2, Dom is motivated to rescue his captured wife Maria. When he finds her, she has been starved and possibly tortured into a catatonic state, and so he shoots her. In Tenchu Shadow Assassins,
Do it. You must.
the princess meekly asks the hero to cut her down to get to the villain, which he does. A particularly egregious example can be found in Grand Theft Auto 3, when after you've rescued Maria Latour, it's implied that the protagonist suddenly shoots her because she's talking about stereotypically girly things.
I broke a nail and my hair is ruined. I mean, can you believe it? This one cost me $50.
The writers deliberately wrote her character to annoy the player, so in the end, the violence against her becomes the punchline of a cheap misogynist joke. Sometimes these killings happen via cutscene, while other games ask the player to participate directly by pulling the trigger themselves. In the Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles remake, if you don't rescue Richter Belmont's beloved Annette, she will turn into a vampire and you'll then have to kill her.
Oh my god, Annette. I'm so sorry I didn't save you. But you know what I do to vampires. What I have to do.
No! I'll make you mine forever!
The captured women in Duke Nukem 3D beg you to kill them throughout the game. This misogynist scene is regurgitated and actually made worse in the 2011 follow-up, Duke Nukem Forever, developed by Gearbox. Another popular Gearbox game, Borderlands 2, also uses this plot twist when Angel asks the player to murder her as a way to try and thwart the villain's evil plan.
Destroying the iridium injectors that keep me alive will stop the key from charging, and it will end a lifetime of servitude.
Right. Yeah.
The end of Alone in the Dark gives the player the choice between...
I love Borderlands though. Besides damsel in distress, this being Angel. Before this, they also have a man who needs to be saved from a prison, and after you almost save him, he's taken away again. So that's cool. They do the job and the reverse.
Killing your girlfriend yourself.
Choose quickly, carrier. Kill her or let her live. You alone can decide.
Or letting Satan kill her by being reborn in her body. The Wii game Pandora's Tower includes one ending in which Elena begs you to kill her before she completes her transformation into a monster.
I like stuff like this.
Please. I beg of you. Help me. I'm so afraid.
In the 2006 shooter Prey, when the hero finally reaches his abducted girlfriend, she's been hideously mutilated and fused with a monster, which you must fight while she screams for help over and over again.
Get away from me, Tommy! She wants me to kill you! I can't stop it!
After being incapacitated, she begs you to kill her.
Please, Tommy. Let me go.
And the player can't advance in the narrative until you shoot her in the face. These damseled women are written so as to subordinate themselves to men. They submissively accept their grisly fate and will often beg the player to perform violence on them, giving men direct and total control over whether they live or die, even saying thank you with their dying breath. In other words, these women are asking for it, quite literally. The euthanized damsel is the darkest and edgiest of these trope hybrids, but it's also an extension of a larger pattern in gaming narratives where male protagonists are forced to fight their own loved ones who have been possessed or brainwashed by villains. When Kratos finds his mother in the PSP game God of War Ghosts of Sparta, she morphs into a hideous beast, forcing you to fight and kill her. An act for which she thanks you with her dying breath.
Finally, I am free.
After your girlfriend is transformed into a green ogre and grabbed by the ghoulies, she chases you around trying to get a kiss. Later, you must beat her unconscious before she can be returned to normal. The final boss in Shadows of the Damned turns out to be your own girlfriend.
Where's my freedom?
who you must shoot down. Similar scenarios are replicated in dozens of other titles as well. Although the narratives all differ slightly, the core element remains the same. In each case, violence is used to bring these women back to their senses. These stories conjure up supernatural situations in which domestic violence perpetrated by men against women who have lost control of themselves not only appears justified, but is presented as an altruistic act done for the woman's own good. Of course, if you look at any of these games in isolation, you'll be able to find incidental narrative circumstances that can be used to explain away the inclusion of violence against women as a plot device. But just because a particular event might make sense within the internal logic of a fictional narrative, that doesn't in and of itself justify its use. Games don't exist in a vacuum, and therefore can't be divorced from the larger cultural context of the real world. It's especially troubling in light of the serious, real-life epidemic of violence against women facing the female population on this planet. Every 9 seconds, a woman is assaulted or beaten in the United States, and on average, more than 3 women are murdered by their boyfriends, husbands, or ex-partners every single day. Research consistently shows that people of all genders tend to buy into the myth that women are the ones to blame for the violence men perpetrate against them. In the same vein, abusive men consistently state that their female targets deserved it, wanted it, or were asking for it. Given the reality of that larger cultural context, it should go without saying that it's dangerously irresponsible to be creating games in which players are encouraged and even required to perform violence against women in order to save them. Even though most of the games that we're talking about don't explicitly condone violence against women, nevertheless they trivialize and exploit female suffering as a way to ratchet up the emotional or sexual stakes for the player. Despite these troubling implications, game creators aren't necessarily all sitting around twirling their nefarious-looking mustaches while consciously trying to figure out how to best misrepresent women as part of some grand conspiracy. Most probably just haven't given much thought to the underlying messages their games are sending, and in many cases, developers have backed themselves into a corner with their own game mechanics. When violence is the primary gameplay mechanic, and therefore the primary way that the player engages with the game world, it severely limits the options for problem solving. The player is then forced to use violence to deal with almost all situations because it's the only meaningful mechanic available, even if that means beating up or killing the women they're meant to love or care about. One of the really insidious things about systemic and institutional sexism is that most often regressive attitudes and harmful gender stereotypes are maintained and perpetuated unintentionally. Likewise, engaging with these games is not going to magically transform players into raging sexists. We typically don't have a monkey-see, monkey-do direct cause and effect relationship with the media we consume. Cultural influence works in much more subtle and complicated ways. However, media narratives do have a powerful cultivation effect, helping to shape cultural attitudes and opinions. So when developers exploit sensationalized images of brutalized, mutilated, and victimized women over and over and over again, it tends to reinforce the dominant gender paradigm, which casts men as aggressive and commanding, and frames women as subordinate and dependent. Although these stories use female trauma as the catalyst to set the plot elements in motion, these are not stories about women. Nor are they concerned with the struggles of women navigating the mental, emotional, and physical ramifications of violence. Instead, these are strictly male-centered stories, in which, more often than not, the tragic damsels are just empty shells, whose deaths are depicted as far more meaningful than their lives. Generally, they're completely defined by their purity, innocence, kindness, beauty, or sensuality. In short, they're just symbols meant to invoke the essence of an artificial feminine ideal. In fact, these games usually frame the loss of the woman as something that has been unjustly taken from the male hero.
So now, what I take from you.
Jackie, this is not your fault.
The implication being that she belonged to him, that she was his possession. Once wronged, the hero must go get his possessions back, or at least exact a heavy price for their loss. On the surface, victimized women are framed as the reason for the hero's torment, But if we dig a little deeper into the subtext, I'd argue that the true source of the pain stems from feelings of weakness and or guilt over his failure to perform his socially prescribed patriarchal duty to protect his women and children.
And I hated myself.
What do you think about this particular statement? Would you disagree with it? That the problem, the suffering, is caused by the guilt and the feeling of weakness when not, being a man the right way. I guess so. It's a convenient way to frame a story of a man who's trying to redeem himself. On the one part, those are powerful motivators. On the other hand, I don't think at all a lot of men would be able to protect their loved ones in the way we are expected to. Again, you're not looking at this through the lens we're talking about. It is about not how men actualize themselves. It is about how the stories that men consume treat women and what norm you internalize as you consume those stories. Do you understand what I mean? I see that there's a disconnect, and I want to, at least make it less of a problem. I don't know what to say. I'm just a simple man who enjoys a good story. I don't really try and analyze the hell of it. I mean, you don't really have to, but it's better if you do. When you don't think about what you consume, you basically give your mind away to the people who you listen to instead of thinking for yourself. Do you understand where I'm coming from? I just understand that I don't have to, but it helps if I do. Well, yeah, and if you don't think critically about what you consume, that means that people can manipulate you easily. Like, you just give away your agency to whoever you listen to. I don't know, it's kind of story of my life at this point. Always used and abused. It doesn't have to be. Like, you can stop at any time. The only one who restricts you is yourself. I think you are under the fallacy of sunken costs. It's been this way for so long, and if you start doubting it, it feels like your life was spent incorrectly. Like, you lost so much when it would be much easier to have it than you thought. And then there will be regret. But I think you should consider your future self and what he can achieve rather than what your past self lost. Also, I feel like I'm too old and tired at this point to think critically. I honestly don't want to think about things. You said at this point 3 times. No, you are not. Like, I feel like if you look at your 30-year-old self right now, you will probably think, oh, it wasn't over then. I thought it was. No, but it wasn't. So, you can have many great years ahead of you. You know, about 40. You can have like 2/3 of what you've lived so far. There's a lot. There are many chances to enjoy if you let yourself do it. My 30s were the transition point from bitter and angry to tired and apathetic. But yeah, I've heard people say it's easier to philosophize, I hate this word, in your 20s than in your 30s, just too many responsibilities. The path feels more certain and closed off. I sometimes also feel like the best is behind me, but I try to keep humble that there are people older and more experienced than me that would want to be in my position. But obviously, as the world gets crazier, to be younger, the desire to be younger may be less and less. I mean, you wouldn't be as tired, I think, if you didn't make yourself carry all this weight of, misery, honestly. You can feel better if you let yourself go for it. My mother, in her 40s, starting from her 40s, would always talk about, but when I die, she always talked about how she is gonna die any moment now. And I was genuinely so worried. But the thing is that it's been 20 years. And all this time she's been talking about it, how she might be dead tomorrow. I mean, in a sense, this is kind of what you're talking about. You're burying yourself before there's a reason to worry. My grandfather started dying when he was 70. That was 19 years ago, and he's still around. Oh, he must have great health. Have had. I sometimes go to bed wondering if I will wake up. So yeah, I feel like you have no reason to think that. I don't remember. Did you do meet and greet? Do you have any health problems that warrant this thought? Oh, sleep apnea could be. Physically, it's kind of rough for him, back pain and all, but mentally he's still sharp. Amazing. I have mild sleep apnea. My mother has apnea, and whenever I live with her, it can be terrifying to wake up to those sounds or just hear those sounds at night. Sounds. Apnea sucks. So, there's one classic Russian writer, poet, who started writing, I think, when he was 53. The world, your life, isn't story-driven quest. It's an open world. Like, you got your truck education, truck truck driver, yeah. You could just do it, and you did it. I remember my friend was studying philology in, I don't know if you guys have this form of studying. When you do the studying by yourself, then you come, maybe have a few lectures, and then you pass the exam, take the exam, preferably pass it. So she was there studying this with all the love of in my heart, I can say it, useless degree. And that she also had a classmate who was 37 years old, a factory worker, and he did it just because he wanted to. Like, that's it. Either this or he wanted to become a teacher. So, open world, make quests, take whatever you want at any time. You can literally go get, if you have the money, if you have the sources, spend 4 years learning environmental science and become, I don't know, not environmental scientist, of course, because this needs more time studying, but open a completely new path for it. I don't think I should be a lawyer, to be honest. I'd like to play devil's advocate too much. I would probably end up defending Putin and his child just for fun. I mean, you can, if he lives to the trial. Sometimes age isn't cruel enough on some individuals. Anyway, we should finish. I'm sleepy. The word sounds so exhausting, even though I'd love to argue about something I care about. My friend is a lawyer, by the way. I'm sorry for yawning so much. The one in California? No. The one in Russia? Unboxing. Yeah. So I have a friend who is a lawyer. I also have not like quite a friend, but a pal, whose boyfriend was in police. He quit police, now he's a lawyer, but also apparently my sister's boyfriend is in police. So I have some connections. But at least when it was about my pal's boyfriend, since we're in the same city, if I'd get in jail, he would help. He did help a girl with the boyfriend. They were selling drugs. He made it that they don't get in jail because they were like 18, 20, this age. Anyway, year later, she is pregnant, they're selling drugs, now they get the sentence, there's no avoiding it. Terrible stuff. Don't do drugs, kids and adults and even old people, please. Okay, need to finish. 3 minutes left.
For allowing this to happen to her and our little girl.
In this way, these failed hero stories are really about the perceived loss of masculinity and then the quest to regain that masculinity, primarily by exerting dominance and control through the performance of violence on others. Consequently, violent revenge-based narratives repeated ad nauseum can also be harmful to men because they help to further limit the possible responses men are allowed to have when faced with death or tragedy. This is unfortunate because interactive media has the potential to be a brilliant medium for people of all genders to explore difficult or painful subjects.
Oh, by the way, because of the interacting part, games are very good at teaching people stuff. Like, you immediately get a response. So keep that in mind as well.
So to be clear here, The problem is not the fact that female characters die or suffer. Death touches all of our lives eventually, and as such, it's often an integral part of dramatic storytelling. To say that women could never die in stories would be absurd. But it's important to consider the ways that women's deaths are framed and examine how and why they're written. There are some games that try to explore loss, death, and grief in more genuine or authentic ways that do not sensationalize or exploit victimized women. Dear Esther, Passage, and To the Moon are a few indie games that investigate these themes in creative, innovative, and sometimes beautiful ways. These more contemplative style games are a hopeful sign, but they're still largely the exception to the rule. A sizable chunk of the industry is still unfortunately trapped in the established pattern of building game narratives on the backs of brutalized female bodies. Violence against women is a serious global epidemic. Therefore, attempts to address the issue in fictional contexts demands a considerable degree of respect, subtlety, and nuance. Women shouldn't be mere disposable objects or symbolic pawns in stories about men and their own struggles with patriarchal expectations and inadequacies. The dark and edgy trope cocktails that we've discussed in this episode are not isolated incidents or obscure anomalies. Instead, they represent an ongoing, recurring pattern in modern gaming narratives. In most cases, the damseled characters have simply gone from being helpless to being dead, which is obviously not a huge improvement from her perspective. I know this episode has been a little bit grim, but please join me next time for the third and final installment covering the damsel in distress, where we'll take a look at some titles that attempt to flip the script on the damsel, and then we'll go on a quest to find examples of the elusive dude in distress role reversal.
So, here are two videos from the series. What do you mean proactive? So, two videos from the series that started the Gamergate. A question to Rami specifically. Do you think with the content we saw, the reactions are adequate and proportionate to, the situations? Gamergate started earlier. Yeah, but this was a big one. This, I think, Anita Sarkeesian and her series, became one of the main targets. The reactions to her, the death threats, yes. Well, not even that, but obviously, I would hope you don't think that death threats and rape threats and doxing is adequate. But rather, do you think that the disdain that caused, this aggression that was the Gamergate is deserved or an adequate reaction or proportional to, let's say, problem that her talking about it is? This is what caused the epidemic of hating so-called wokeness. You can always, by the way, join the stage. She single-handedly ruined the industry. How? How do you think she did it? And is actively still destroying the industry and the community. How? It didn't have to go to death threats and doxing. This is wrong. With every community should be allowed to defend itself from the outsider. She's not an outsider. You see, like, both you and Solo show that you view women as outsiders. We are gamers too. We are not just passerbys. Well, I meant in terms of still, the majority is like 10% different marks. I think he meant her specifically. At some point she said she doesn't. She does. I don't see women and tourists as outsiders. But you are seeing women as tourists and outsiders, which you have shown when you talked about how appropriate, let's say, for games so often to just be a male power fantasy. There are plenty of hardcore women gamers who aren't tourists. You know, I feel like you wouldn't call a man a tourist in the game industry if he was just playing, say, 2 hours every week. I would actually many modern game journalists don't count, and you specifically chose game journalists because the reason they are viewed as outsiders because they do not get games, because they play rather because they have to review, not because they enjoy. I mean, maybe you personally would go, let's say. I believe that most players, gamers wouldn't. I mean, even so, let's think she herself didn't play. It is still a sentiment that resonated with many female gamers, me included. What was the question again? Let's so we stopped at you saying she single-handedly ruined the industry and is still destroying the industry and community. I do not understand why you say that. And that community should be allowed to defend itself from outsiders. The question was whether the reaction to what she was saying in these videos is adequate. Like, how was and is she ruining games? She was Sweet Baby Ink before such. I don't know what it is. Oi. On случайно. Oh. She convinced developers that the tiny fraction of people who don't even like video games should be gathered to and centered. How and who are these people? Folks, I think you need to understand that you view the default as a white, as a Latino man, you view the default as white, straight man. But white straight men are the minority as opposed to everyone else. So you think that media catering to any other audience than the default audience, what you're used to, is too much, too political, too anything. But this is exactly the reason why it should keep happening, so that you get used to stories about women, stories about black people, stories about lesbians, black lesbians who are in wheelchairs, disabled, because these people exist. Their existence, our existence, is not a political statement. It doesn't have to be. But if you feel that it is not the norm, existence becomes a political statement. I want to see what Sola says. I didn't read it yet. Haven't read it. I see this kind of elitist, snotty journalism music industry as well. There was a New York Times article that put Taylor Swift in the same. Yeah. This is why people don't have trust to big media, IGN for video games too. Like, people know it just, they are outsiders, they are journalists. I don't need a character to look and act like me to relate to them. I don't want to see Gabriel Iglesias in a game as an MC. I would rather be Oscar Isaac, even though I look more. I don't know these people. This is tough for me. I'll have to Google it. I'll finish reading Sola's comment. So I understand the sentiment about intruders trying to criticize or comment on media they're not as apparently well versed in compared to a professional. In regards to Gamergate, I don't know much about Queen, but it was wrong that they falsely accused her and expanded the overall critique into feminist video game journalists in general. Maybe Anita doesn't game that much, but based on the videos we watched, it at least seems like she dedicated a lot of research to making a point, which I respect. I mean, I don't even think she was the only one to do it. It was an organization. Okay, so let's learn who are Oscar Isaac and Gabriel Iglesias. Oh, this guy. I don't understand what's your point with this. Oh, it's that you want to see a dude who is more attractive, right? Well, you see, this is the point. I'm not even talking, I said it's not just about you. It's about what you consider the norm to relate to. Because there will be Asian people complaining about too many Asians in video games. This is why I said it. I don't know these people. I don't have the same culture circumstances. Flexing your knowledge of Just Cause games, I also don't know what that is. I mean, I googled 2 names today for you. That's enough. Yeah, no, 3. Also Bionic Commando. On my phone and then on my PC so that I could copy and send. So, oh, you know, have you heard about the ugly laws? Laws. Only played just the first chicken. The ugly laws. LAW law. Oh my. So basically, if you're too ugly, don't come outside because this is not pleasant to look at. In the Soviet Union, also after the war, left many people disabled. They were also kind of pushed aside because they are unsightly and they should not be representing the winning side, country, state. This is why sounds like what we have on modern dating market, to be honest, if you're too ugly. This does not sound the same. No, this is not black pill before black pill. Also, women also can be disabled. How is this black pill? I mean, unless you also consider ugly women on the same playing as ugly men, which I am not against. What you're talking about? I'm so ashamed of my home city. Thanks. Are you are you doxing yourself? When so there's I've been listening. I listened recently. Everyone knows he's from the Bay Area. I didn't know. I mean, he probably told me, but I remember nothing. Anyway, so I watched the Casual Criminalists video on the Yuba County 5. They were 5 to simplify it, mentally disabled to different capacities men who were working in some charity organization, and they were also playing basketball. So this charity was started not that far away from when this crime, or not crime, happened, and not long after the ugly laws were banished and people have committed arson and tried to kill those who started charities because they were unused to unsightly people. By the way, you talked about it with mentioning Enrico Gabrielis, probably. I don't remember. You kind of support ugly laws. You're talking about how it's something on the dating market. This is something that is happening in your head. You don't want to see ugly people. You pay attention to them and target them in your head. They exist, and you think, no, I don't want to look at them, I don't want to see them, put them away. This is the problem that people try to solve with representation. You should not look at existence of people as a statement or as an aesthetic insult. As an ugly man, of course I hate myself. Let's say you hate yourself. I mean, you do. Let's say I am not against hating yourself. You hating yourself. Let's imagine that. Why do you also hate other people who are like you? I mean, it's one thing to internalize this hate against yourself, but you also basically expand it onto other people. I guess it's kind of similar to cleaning out Skid Row whenever a diplomat comes to visit. Yeah. They remind me of myself. Yeah. But this doesn't you can dislike someone and not be something and not be against its existence. How much we I let's close this talk. I think you should move to the main chat so that I soon close this stage and I go to sleep and you guys engage in discussion that I will read in the morning. I'm not going out yet. I need to finish and, drive the point home. Neither art nor reality are meant just to make you comfortable, just to be pleasing. So even if you dislike something, it should still have the right to exist. You may dislike something and know, I hate, what do I hate? Body horror, gore in horrors. I don't go and tell people to not make it. I don't judge people for making it. I just know it's not for me. If I see body horror somewhere, I may not like it, but I will still not think that I should not have seen it because I don't like it, because it's unsightly. Things should exist and should be seen by people even if they are not pleasing. And especially people. If there are people whose existence is seen as a challenge to you, that just means you need to see more of that so that you don't feel comfortable about someone existing within your sight. Does this make sense? Did I explain it okay? Is it understandable? My dream is to become a cybernetic organism. That's body horror right there. I think it's better for me not to think about what if my body was healthy. I will just be crying for hours if I engage with this fantasy. No, I wish you guys better body image one day. The problem isn't body image. The problem is health. It's that everything that could go wrong, goes wrong. My teeth, my intestines, my eyesight, whatever you want to pick. It all sucks. Anyway, I think we did well, right? It was insightful. Rami, you were an important part of this event, even. You were integral. So I want to ask you if you feel like maybe there's something for you to revisit and to think about again. And I know you feel like I think I'm better than you. Did you have this feeling today? I don't know how to make this stop. Like, I understand that I'm talking from a preachy point, but this is kind of the point. The feeling that you are better than me. So it seems like you feel like I think I'm better than you. Did I make you feel this way during this stream? Are we parting with you feeling this way? Not gonna lie, but that is something you should work on. Not during this particular stream, but when we have butted heads. In the past, especially when I make the comment. Okay, so thank you. I'm glad not during this stream. I am trying to work on stuff, as you know, that's why I asked. And with the egghead comment, it was the opposite for me. I feel like you think the group I belong to basically sucks, to simplify it. I didn't really pick up on that from an outsider looking in. It wasn't as much superiority complex as casual frustration, but of course I haven't studied all the chat history. I am frustrated all the time. So often I try to work on that. You've seen me talk with Cile. He frustrates me often because I feel like what I say goes past him, unfortunately. Anyway, I think I finished well. That's a good example. Unfortunately, you have to tread lightly with some people, yeah. And he also feels like I think I'm better than him. Look, I get that in your culture, smart people are respected. That's a strong opening. That's honestly something I admired, but I hate when book smart people think they have authority over others just because you have an expensive piece of paper saying you are an expert doesn't mean you are smart. Do you not think I'm smart? I mean, when you're talking about book smart people, this is when we are talking about things where book smarts are needed. I mean, people with education in general. I don't know what to take out of it. I agree that, I mean, I had classmates who are stupid. Not everyone with a degree is smart. That's true. Only in their areas. Sometimes they're stupid even in their areas, I can promise you that. So, while degree is not, a stamp of approval, even though we want it's supposed to be, I do use it, as an authority fallacy, you could say, because this is just simpler sometimes than to explain all the details. You know, I just wanted to say, I think the problem with specifically this video series is because she was too blatant about what she said. If she didn't call it misogyny so many times, like if she just said this word one time throughout the video, this wouldn't have triggered people. But because, you know, saying the word misogyny kind of indicates that you are, it's not a bad word, but so this is said to attract attention, and well, it did. It's like a sword, but it did not work well. Then again, I'm just an idiot who decided doesn't like to think and would happily join a cult if they gave me on that. I hope you understand that this is not what I was saying. Anyway, so yeah, I think like to say these words, she would need to have done a lot of more explanation, because from for a person who is originally feels, you know, against something, talking about how this something, you know, is correct will not get them on your side. So you would need to give a good explanation, that, or you need to avoid triggering people by saying things straightforward. If you were an easily brainwashed idiot, I don't think you would be, you know, where you are right now. Yes, in my server. Being in my server means you think, but I mean, like in general, you have the searching for answers in you. I think with you personally, there's a part of you that have given up and like want to just lay down and rot. And there's a part of you that is interested in new things and that is open. There are two wolves inside of you. One craves dick and one craves pussy. You are me. So yeah. I hope I am improving as a thought leader. Thank you for like coming to me, my loyal listeners. I really appreciate that you talk to me and open to what I say, even when we disagree. If I hated you, I wouldn't be here. If I hated you, you wouldn't be here. Yeah, I don't think you're like stupid and irredeemable, and you know, I appreciate the effort you do, even if you don't think you're doing that much effort. Anyway, have a great day, Americans. Good night, Ayuna. It was nice.